We are currently living through a downfall unseen in our time. Not an economic, cultural or political downfall, but a biological, hormonal one. The thing that makes us, us. The thing that regulates our emotions, productivity, health, stress and lives. It is my firm belief that one of the many plagues of our society is the fall and depletion of masculinity. Along with this, we see a crisis of self-confidence, positive status of mental health, emotional control, obesity, lack of muscle, and a lack of will. A new study has found a substantial drop in US men's testosterone levels since the 1980s. Clearly something is happening, but what is the cause? More importantly, is the causation equated with the causality?
Fatigue, depressed, confidence down, reduced sex drive. If you suffer from any of these, the chances are your T levels are low, and trust me, you're not alone. Many men suffer from low testosterone, especially middle-aged men. The average 30-year-old each year that passes, your T levels drop by a percentile. The average drop is about 1% per year after the age of 30, but ongoing research shows decreases that are unrelated to aging. These studies compare people of the same age in different years. There is no doubt that the evidence points to the change in our societal and cultural norms. However, the first question you may ask is, what is testosterone? And of course, what does it do to us? Testosterone is a sex hormone that plays an important role in our bodies. In men, it's thought to regulate sex drive, libido, bone mass, fat distribution, muscle mass and strength, and the production of red blood cells and sperm. A more in-depth analysis shows testosterone is responsible for increased muscle mass, leaner body mass helps control weight and increases energy. For men with low testosterone, studies show that the treatment can decrease fat mass and increase muscle size and strength. All that, including the fact that men that have took it, the ones that I know personally and other testimonies, will all rely back pretty much an entire shift on their mental health to positive standards. That's because hormones really do play a crucial role in how one regulates their emotions. We know this fundamentally already. Women, for example, during the middle of their monthly cycle, estrogen levels increase, bringing on symptoms like PMS, and us men would know all about that. The question you might ponder is, why all of a sudden do we see decreased levels of testosterone in males over the years? Some may argue moving towards a society, especially in the West, of a pro-feminine approach, especially directed onto men, may hurt men in the long run, rather than help. Other possibilities may include men moving away from more traditional roles, more sedentary jobs, a removal of meaning onto men's lives. Considering for just about all of history, men have had a clear and concise role to play in society and community. That was to hunt, protect, and reproduce. However, in a society more moving away from that to more egalitarian systems, including that of men and women both opting out more and more to actually have children and would rather direct that maternal and paternal urge onto pets, we may see a potential downfall in the long run here. Of course, I'm not here to argue this or give my opinion on why this is good or bad. I'm merely pointing out cultural changes that is becoming more and more apparent each day, something we did not see in the past 20 years or more. The good news is, I have suggestions and changes you can apply to your life to naturally increase your testosterone without having to inject TRT or high levels of testosterone. And I promise you, some of these you've probably never heard or considered before. Now let's get into it. There is a secret killer of men, closer to home than we actually realise. Something you consume every day without a second thought. Water. Specifically, water from a tap. Countless reports and studies, both inside of the USA and UK, among other countries, have been discovered. Scientists believe ethanol, EE2, a chemical found in the contraceptive pill, a potent form of the female sex hormone estrogen, is getting into the drinking water supplies, though links to reduced male fertility rates have yet to be proven. And back in 2012, a 30BN bill to purify water systems after the impact of the contraceptive pill, drug firms oppose an EU call for controls on potent chemicals that have been blamed for the gender mutation of freshwater fish. So yes, Alex Jones was actually right. It was telling the frogs gay! Now I do have anecdotal feedback on this. I actually was, or thought I was, suffering from low T many months back. One of the first changes I made was moving on to filtering my water. Considering I was consuming 5+ litres of water a day from a tap, I thought that it could have had a massive contributing factor. Within the matter of a week, I already felt changes, more energy, increased sex drive, and minor performances improvements in the gym, thanks to simply filtering my water. Now, some argue the levels of estrogen found inside the water as being only 1%, but for the sake of water filtration, not being overly expensive, it's not a change that's going to make a massive impact in your life. It's a change you can certainly make to test it in your own body. It's simple. Strength, more precisely in the form of adaptation to lifting heavy weight progressively, week in and week out. We all know testosterone can directly increase your strength levels, but inadvertently, your work towards getting stronger can directly increase your test levels. Taken from Men's T Clinic, testosterone replacement and various factors may modulate the effect of exercise on testosterone levels in men. Testosterone is the most potent naturally secreted steroid androgenic hormone. It is required for the promotion of secondary male sex characteristics, as well as muscle growth and neuromuscular adaptation. At the muscle level, testosterone is known to exert its anabolic effect via the following two mechanisms. A, stimulating amino acid uptake and protein synthesis, and B, inhibiting protein degradation by counteracting cortisol signaling. As you can see here in the case study, following the intensity of exercise and the analysis on the T levels increased significantly after these things. But again, don't take a study's word for it, just try it. If you implement a basic approach to consistently performing progressive overload within your resistance training each week, pushing the boat out in terms of increased weight further and further, you'll feel the difference hormonally. Strength is not just physical, it's mental as well, and it's hormonal. If you had to hazard a guess as to just why you think testosterone levels have dropped exceedingly throughout the last couple of decades, you would probably make a quite accurate suggestion if you said food, and you'd be somewhat right. You see, our eating habits have changed dramatically over the years. Fast food is more readily accessible and used in our daily lives. Foods are even more processed than ever before. We now have substitutes for different foods such as milk, substitutes with soy, etc. And our calorie intake is quite frankly considered gluttonous. High calorie diets that subsequently lead to copious amounts of weight gain, which subsequently leads to a poor hormone production and balance within the body. Foods can directly and indirectly lower or raise your testosterone. This is because certain foods form micronutrients that can promote hormone production within the body or decrease it. For example, certain refined carbohydrates or trans fats can cause inflammation and thus lower testosterone. Understanding which foods are beneficial to not only your health but your hormonal health can really make the difference. Let's look at some examples of foods that are harmful to your testosterone levels and why. First off is dairy products. Despite the fact that vitamin D is a great substance for maintaining testosterone levels, dairy products containing cow's milk contain significant amounts of estrogen and progesterone, which are important factors in suppressing certain hormones necessary for the tests to synthesize testosterone. In the absence of these hormones, your body cannot utilize testosterone, resulting in lower levels of production. Soy, for example, while studies are conflicting and nothing is 100% here, there is some indication that soy also lowers testosterone. While it isn't concrete, it's best to decide on the error of caution on this one. Highly produced fats, highly produced foods with high levels of trans fats can also kill your testosterone levels due to the increasing of inflammation. Excessive consumptions of alcohol can also have lowering effects, although some studies did initially show small use of alcohol can increase testosterone. Some medical professionals don't think this is the case though. Breads can also affect levels again due to the trans fats levels, but also gluten has been shown to disturb the system So removing it from your diet can help stabilize your testosterone levels. But again, everything in moderation. Now let's look at some foods that encourage testosterone production. Get a pen and make a list here. Leafy greens, fatty fish, healthy oils, onions, foods with high protein content or high deliverance essential of amino acids, and one of the best, eggs. Now of course, there are supplements that have been shown to promote an increase in testosterone levels. Vitamins like A, C and E, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, other non-common ones such as tribulus, fenugreek, ashwagandha, etc. But it's important to note that really there is no concrete evidence or studies on these being actually effective. The overall importance is having a balanced diet along with a balanced vitamin intake. My own opinion on testosterone would be to avoid specific testosterone boosting supplements. A lot of these, particularly the cheaper ones inside of dollar or pound shops, can actually have the opposite effect, and we really don't know exactly what are in these. If you get a concrete routine of a good diet in, day out, and one of the most important extra things for testosterone, which is really actually the key of everything here, which is not a point in the video, is sleep. If you can nail 7 to 9 hours each night uninterrupted, you can get a healthy routine of high protein, high deliverance of amino acid foods back and train hard. There's no reason you would have low testosterone levels, of course, unless there's some medical issue. As you can see, food is tremendously important, which leads us on nicely to our next one, losing weight. According to the National Institutes of Health, moderate obesity predominantly decreases total testosterone due to the insulin resistance. More severe obesity is additionally associated with reductions in free testosterone levels due to the suppression of the HPT axis. Harvard Medical School writes, obesity lowers testosterone levels. For example, a 2007 study of 1,666 men ages from 40 and above found that each 1 point increase in BMI was associated with a 2% decrease in testosterone. In addition, a 2008 study of 1,862 men ages 30 and above found that waist circumference was an even stronger predictor of low testosterone levels than BMI. 4-inch increase in waist size increased a man's odds of having a low testosterone level by 75%. For comparison, 10 years of aging increases the odds by only 36%. All in all, waist circumference was one of the strongest single predictor of developing symptoms of testosterone deficiency. And if you doubt these two American studies, just consider Australian research that found almost 1 in every 7 obese men could benefit from testosterone replacement, a rate more than 4 times higher than in non-obese men. And don't take the study's word for it. If anyone has ever bulked or been overweight, you know that there are poor side effects, fatigue, inflammation, brain fog, etc. This can all potentially be related to low testosterone. However, it is important to also note aggressive diets, especially one with rapid weight loss, will absolutely temporarily destroy your testosterone. I personally have had first-hand experience with this. During my 2022 prep, I underwent an aggressive prep with only 13 to 15 weeks preparation. Due to the output and low calories, my testosterone was completely dead. No energy, no focus, no libido, and difficulty with recovery. While food and weight loss may seem quite obvious, there may be something else that you're not considering. That over a long period of time is directly affecting your levels, bringing them down month in and month out. This leads us on to our next pointer, adapting a more traditional, meaningful role in your life. Studies show that when men have kids or are in long-term relationships, their test levels shift and lower. For obvious reasons, this isn't permanent. However, men are being encouraged more and more than ever to be both man and woman in terms of duties. Studies show the more caregiving you do lowers your test, including things such as housework duties like doing the dishes, for example. In turn, this can lead women not finding the males as attractive, because some studies have shown that women's attractiveness lowers as men adopt more household roles, and in turn this lowers the male testosterone response. So the reason today we are seeing lower testosterone, this actually could be one of the explanations in terms of men's roles being reversed or attempts to adapt both roles. This also goes for women, who are also encouraged to play both roles, female and male duties. This point may seem rather unbelievable or potentially opinionated, but it has some firm research and backing behind it. Part of it comes from an evolutionary perspective. Once a man becomes a father, his testosterone will temporarily drop, perhaps for a couple of years at the very least. Part of this is because it's important for a man to be focused on the survival of the baby and not have attention focused onto something else, for example, like the neighbour. Taking on care duty roles for men has shown to decrease your testosterone levels, temporarily of course in the early years of your kids. While being a father and adopting that important responsibility, fulfilling role, if conducted in a traditional masculine way, may raise your testosterone over time. Ultimately, a caretaker role will lower your T levels. Trivial household tasks like washing the dishes or doing the laundry has also actually been shown to decrease your testosterone levels, as your brain unfortunately can again associate these tasks as caretaking duties. But more importantly, it takes the man away from performing more traditional based roles such as physical tasks, DIY, manual labour, general protector of your family, house, etc. These things which may seem on the offset here as some like to call societal forced gender norms, but there is a biological basis and backing for it. Dr. Sarah Hill has done a considerable amount of research into this.
Is doing because testosterone is reactive. It increases when there's a beautiful woman around. It decreases if your sports team loses. It increases if your sports team wins. Your political candidate loses, it decreases. So when men get married or are in a long-term committed relationship, their testosterone levels decrease a little bit. And this happens absolutely functionally because it's essentially easing the foot off the gas pedal because it's keeping men from doing counterproductive things within the context of a pair bond. When men have young children.
Suppose it tilts them more to the, go ahead.
Men have children, their testosterone levels decrease again. And the more caregiving that men do, the more their testosterone lowers. And this isn't permanent. Right, this is a shift that men's bodies make in response to the environmental cues that's very adaptive and makes a whole lot of sense. They also, like, if you've got young children at home who survival is dependent on you, you need to keep your eye on the ball and not on the next door neighbor.
Right, absolutely.
And be raising your children. And so I started to think about this, and I was thinking about this idea that, women are being expected to be both women and men. Men are being expected to be both men and women because what men are now doing more household work and more childcare than they ever have before. I think
which women also tend to find not attractive.
Well, no, they do. It creates problems within the relationship because women lose sexual attraction in that context. But then men's testosterone levels could be decreasing in response to that. And that could be one of the factors that's contributing to men's low testosterone currently, is that we've created this case where women are having to be women and men are having to be men and women.
Right.
Now, of course, we are not saying how you should live. You absolutely should help with household duties and tasks around the house and do your part. However, consider the roles you're currently playing within your life and household. Would it be more mentally satisfying and fulfilling to conduct roles you feel that best suits your genetic disposition? Those could be the roles that will encourage a more positive hormone balance. A study conducted in America was testing the testosterone changes during vigorous experiences of winning and losing amongst fans at a sporting event. Study 1 showed, first study best considered a pilot study, testosterone changes during vigorous experiences of winning and losing amongst fans at a sporting event. This is by PubMed. It states present research involved 2 studies of changes in testosterone levels amongst fans watching their favourite sports team win or lose. In the first study, participants were 8 male fans attending a basketball game between traditional college rivals. In the second study, participants were 21 male fans watching a televised World Cup soccer match between traditional international rivals. Participants provided saliva samples for testosterone analysis before and after the contest. And in both studies, testosterone levels increased in the fans of winning teams and decreased in the fans of losing teams. These findings suggest that watching one's heroes win or lose has psychological consequences that extend beyond changes in mood and self-esteem. This also stands the same for supporting a particular political candidate, perhaps winning in a video game, the list goes on. So the point of this suggestion is, consider supporting a team or group of some sort and just try to be, well, more competitive. Now, at the very start of this video, we discuss about the importance of water filtration, but there is also a considerable importance from what you drink the water from. Believe it or not, long-term use of drinking your water from plastic bottles can and will kill your testosterone levels. The National Library of Medicine writes, plastics are part of our everyday lives. The plastic pollution is a growing concern. When plastics break down over time, they can form smaller particles called microplastics. Microplastics in turn can break down into even smaller pieces called nanoplastics, which are less than 1 UM in size, unable to be seen with the naked eye. These are small enough to enter the body's cells and tissues. Previous research has found evidence of plastic particles in human blood, lungs, guts, feces, and reproductive tissues like the placenta and testes. But the potential health effects of these tiny plastic bits are still unproven and unknown. The small size of nanoparticles have made them especially difficult to detect and study. Doesn't sound good, right? The question you might be asking is, well, am I drinking this stuff? The NIH writes further. The researchers found that on average, a litre of bottled water included about 240,000 tiny pieces of plastic. About 90% of these plastic fragments were nanoplastics. This total was 10 to 100 times more plastic particles than seen in earlier studies, which mostly focused on larger microplastics. Water contained particles of all 7 types of plastics. The most common was polyamide, type of nylon that's often used to help filter and purify water. An abundance of PET was also detected. This might be expected since PET is used to make bottles of water. Identified plastics included polyphenol, chloride, polymethanol, etc., which has also been used in water purification. Now, what does this mean for us? Polyamide microplastics showed stronger absorption capacity of testosterone than other MP polymers. Compared to the PMMA's MPs, polyamide microplastics induced sperm quality decline in male mice was more severe. Absorption behavior of polyamide microplastics reduced testosterone bioavailability. Meaning, yes, what you drink your water from directly can affect your testosterone levels. And who knows, maybe this is one of the multi-factors of a bigger problem of societal drop in testosterone levels. Think about it. Decades back, the majority of water or lemonade were really drunk from glass bottles. This could be having a much larger effect than we are really underestimating. So our recommendation here is to obtain a bottle to put your water into that isn't plastic. Glass, stainless steel, aluminium, etc. This one is a BPA-free one, for example. Whatever it is, try to move away from plastics. These bottles here are not particularly that expensive, and it's a good investment. And even if there's a small chance that these microplastics are having an effect, it's worth the cost. It's clear that both physically and culturally we are seeing a shift like never before. Attacks on masculinity, shame for wanting to perform historical and traditional things that you biologically want to do, and the downfall of old, proud traits such as stoicism, resilience, responsibility, the will of wanting to have children, raise them and protect a family, and to be the best you can be physically and the strongest you can be mentally. Critically think and not be manipulated by shady politicians or media outlets. This is all reflective of a strong mind, a strong body, a strong heart. This may be my own observation and opinion, but we cannot disagree on the fact that we are currently undergoing a crisis of low testosterone, which will and does affect our lives to how we think, who we are attracted to, our motivation, our will to improve, and our health. If any of the points we've made today in this video even resonates with you slightly, just one, I encourage you to adapt to change, if not for the potential of improvement. We want to see people feel and look better so they can be a better spouse to their partner, a better parent to their children, and a better member of their community and family. Hormones and health affect us all, and it's our job in an ever-changing, fast-paced society to notice the problem, adapt some of the old ways to regain our past selves, exercise and eat like you deserve, and feel the best you can possibly feel. I've been Card from the Ox Den. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.